My birth certificate said my name was John Joseph, and I was male. That was my problem. As an infant, my mother had me in gowns and had long curly hair. I was my mother's daughter. I was her Josephine. As a young child, I enjoyed wearing my sister's clothes, and I preferred dresses. My games were hopscotch, jacks, skip and rope. I did not like playing with the little toy soldiers or playing with the guns. That was not me. As I got older, and my father or sisters and brothers had seen me dressing up, it was beaten into me that that was not a good thing. And as I got a little bit more older, I learned in school from teachers and from church that was not a good thing. So I hid it. Pretty much by middle school and high school, I had this dark secret. I knew I was not John, and I knew I was not a boy, but I had to hide it. In high school, if you could imagine, I loved Judy Garland, Barbra Streisand. I wanted to be a Supreme when I grew up. I like to mean Barbra Streisand. I think to most people I was gay. That's all I heard. I didn't know what I was. And finally, he got into 1968. And my biggest fear, my birth certificate. I had to take a draft physical. I was complete dreadful. The same fear I had when I had to go take showers at the gym with the boys. I just did not belong there. So in 1968, I took a draft physical. Then in 1969, when I was graduating high school, I had the news I was classified 1A. I was fit for military duty. As shocking as it was nobody more surprised than me. Nobody. And I talked to my grandmother a little bit about it. My grandmother was from Nova Scotia and was French-Canadian, spoke mostly French. As a child, she always let me dress the way I want and be me. And she wanted me to go up to Canada. I had spent a good part of my high school years working part-time in Harvard Square, Cambridge, and been around the peace movement in Cambridge. And I had seen people burn their draft cards. And my grandmother wanted me to go up to Nova Scotia with she had a sister that still lived up there. But I went and I decided to confront my father. I never got into the gender stuff, but I told him I was thinking about going to Canada, that I was trying to avoid the draft. And my father was your typical World War II Irish guy, and he went off the deep end and telling me I'll never let her step foot in his house again, sodomite if you can't go off to war, and just the whole Archie Bunker thing before there was even an Archie Bunker on TV. He was there. So the very next morning, I went out, we took the T down to downtown Boston, Cambridge actually, and I went into a recruiter's office, and I enlisted into the Army to get into the medical corps so I could avoid the infantry. And July of 70 to July of 71, I was at Vietnam, actually with the 101st Airborne. And I spent some time up along the Laotian border on a fire base. I could talk a lot about that, what it's like being on a fire base that's under attack and surviving an ambush. But the biggest thing was coming home, landing in Seattle, and I was going to fly from Seattle back to Boston. And as we were getting ready to leave, they brought us into the room. They gave us a little pep talk. The pep talk was, we recommend you don't wear your uniform. You're not well liked. You might cause a disturbance at the airport. We recommend you travel in civilian clothes. And I, being me, said, no, you're not going to take my pride away from me in that uniform. And I did fly from Seattle to, I believe it was O'Hara. And icy stairs, and nobody said a word to me, and nobody would say, it was like I was invisible. I went into the middle of O'Hara and I threw my uniform in the garbage. I had a little carry-on. I had a Jesus Christ t-shirt and a pair of jeans. And I came out and I was visible. People said hi to me, how you doing? And that was welcome home. But I ended up back in Boston. And almost immediately, I was back in full femme hitting the clubs. I was 21 now, so I can get into the good clubs. And I was dressing up again, and the Army didn't change nothing as far as my gender and who I was. But the struggle was still there, wanting to fit in, wanting to be normal. And there were periods around this time frame where I had been. The Army doctors had said I had psychotic war neurosis. This is before the term post-traumatic stress disorder was used. And I was under a lot of different medications. They were trying to treat it with pills that help you sleep, pills that help you wake up, pills for anxiety, pills for depression. And I wanted so much to fit in. So I got married, which was the thing to do. I had 3 children. I worked 5 years at a hard hat job at shipyard in Quincy, Mass. Then I got a civil service, safe, secure job, the post office, and worked with a bunch of other Vietnam veterans, which was cool because it was, we would have crazy contests. But the image at the time of Vietnam veterans all being the enemy, and if you put Vietnam veteran on a job application, you wasn't going to get the job. There was a lot of shame in being a Vietnam veteran. And I got involved with a veterans support group. And I got to meet a bunch of really, what would have become my closest friends, the only friends. It brought back my pride as a veteran. And I started wearing a Vietnam veteran's hat and being proud of who I was. And as the time was getting into the 80s and 90s, the time frame was kind of... But in the end, I just was this miserable drunk. With the home life, I was the saxon in my Episcopalian church. I was a member of the DV, the American Legion, the VFW. I raised my kids as Episcopalians so they wouldn't have to go through the catechism training of the Catholic Church, which I think ought to be outlawed. I ended up finally all of this with a suicide attempt. I tried before, but this time I ended up in a hospital and transferred to the Boston VA hospital. And a woman from my church, who was our big A champion, came in to visit me in a hospital and brought a friend. His name was Pat. Pat, I think, in the long run, may have saved my life. He got me to a year of sobriety and sanity, a whole year, the longest I'd gone out drinking probably since around middle school. And there was this clarity and this sense of who I was that we were sitting, he was on his mail route one day, I was meeting him at lunch, and something called a 4-step inventory in the program, where you really look at yourself and try to answer questions. And the 2 questions we were working on was, do I still feel like drinking? Do I still feel suicidal? And I was, yep, both of those, still there. What can you do to stop the cravings, or to stop the suicidal thoughts? As we were sitting there, it was near the end of the winter, a nice warm sunny day, and 2 young girls came in these really nice summer dresses. And I'm kind of glaring at them, and they're all excited. They're not all bundled up for winter and comfortable and giggling. So he says to Pat, if I could just wear a nice summer dress like that, I think I'd be happy and I wouldn't feel, And Pat did bite out of his sandwich, sip of his coffee, and says, go buy a dress, what's your problem? my AA sponsor. And didn't bat an eyelid. And I was expecting, a total shock and kind of, okay. He finishes his sandwich, his coffee, he grabs his meal bag, was going out the door, and he says, go buy a dress, we sold this. crisis is over. And but it started me. By that time, my marriage was falling apart, and I really was trying to be who I always knew I was. So I went out and got my ears pierced. And I stopped wearing clip-on earrings and just dressing up and night in the closet. And I started literally wearing really nice earrings, painting my nails, shaved my legs, let my hair go down shoulder length. And I was just out being me. The problem was, well, still the birth certificate, but I was going to this veterans group getting more and more effeminate. And these people who had brought me back and all that pride, the Vietnam veteran had got me to where I was, suddenly turned on me. Are you queer? Are you a faggot? Well, are you going to get your dick cut off? Are you going to get one of those gender realignments? And this was the talk in the support group with the facilities there. Outside of the groups, it got even uglier. These were all I had for support. And finally, my doctors at the VA recommended I go to the Fenway Clinic, which is a hospital in Boston. It specializes in care of gay and lesbian people, and they were trying to get more involved with transgender medicine and helping transgender people. So I went there and was in their first transgender support group. And it opened doors to me. Another part around this time was the VA had a program where you can get a free personal computer. The idea was that with the computer you could send emails and connect with other Vietnam veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder and stuff. But the first thing I did was I Googled transgender. This new word that was kicking around. It was no longer just LG, lesbian, gay, and bi. All of a sudden it was this transgender. What it actually meant was confusing to a lot of people, even to me. But I found out that was me. I found the International Foundation for Gender Education, Dr. Bible, who eventually would do my surgery. But the biggest thing, I found other transgender Vietnam veterans across the country. I know several now from people that have actually transitioned and others in different. It's a long, complex process, and not everybody wants surgery. It's another issue. But in the end, I like to simplify it. I weaved myself a cocoon, and I came out the beautiful woman I always wanted to be. And it's poetic, but it's a little more complex than that, a lot more complex. But I did it. I really, truly did it. And in the end, when I came back from Colorado, and I had a letter from the Dr. Bible that said that legally I was female. I fit the criteria. Can I say the V word with your adults here? I had a vagina. And I had to legally change my name to Janice Josephine. So I had this beautiful morning when I went into the Cambridge City Hall, on with my paperwork, and I was presented with a new birth certificate that said I was Janice Josephine Carney, female. And one last thing, I never could be my father's son, but I am my mother's daughter. I am my mother's Josephine. Okay, thank you.